Home invaders tried to force their way into an apartment, but for some reason, they left without taking anything. In another house, a child experienced something so unsettling that even now, years later, he refuses to talk about what he saw. And elsewhere, a teenage girl stood frozen as she watched the bathroom light flicker. At first, she blamed the wiring. It wasn't until someone pointed out that the light switch itself was moving up and down on its own. These stories come from different families, but they follow the same unnerving pattern. Something was already inside those houses, watching, and every now and then, it intervened. So I've got more haunted homes lined up for you this episode, and this first story comes from Fran. When I left my ex-husband, I was renting this house with my then 3 children, as I have 4 now. As soon as I moved in, there was this loud bang that would occur in the bathroom. Every time I would look, there would be one of my shower gels in the bath. I initially put it down to maybe the position I'd put the shower gel on the side of my bathtub, just trying to make sense of it all. So I made sure I put them on securely, as the bang would scare me sometimes. I mean, I swear bathrooms have their own different version of gravity. We have textured tiles, so things shouldn't slide about, and yet still they do. Alternatively, it could be the cat doing parkour in the bathroom at 3 a.m, which is seemingly the only time that he needs to practice. One day, one of my friends came over, and as it was time to go and grab our kids from school, we got ready to go. But we obviously had to use the toilet. My friend went first, and then I went up. As I sat on the toilet, I could see something hovering in the corner of my eye in the bath. So I looked over, and another one of my shower gels smashed into my bath. I can only assume that was what was hovering. While I'm trying to have a wee, and a ghost is waving a shower gel bottle around trying to get my attention. Just not the time. But I still tried to make sense of it and just put it down to imagination. But this would happen at all times of day. My now husband stayed the night one night, and we heard this bang again. I said to my husband that I'm just confused about this bang, as it happens every day. I got out of bed and went and stood by my door, which was next to the bathroom door. I used to leave the light on for the kids, but pulled the door too so that there was a little light on the floor in the hallway. As I stood there, a shadow went from one side of the light on the floor and came towards me, but like it was in the bathroom, like someone had walked from one side to the other. But there was no physical person there. No, that is a case of shouldn't have looked because didn't really want to know. From then on, there were the sounds of footsteps made by little feet that would run across my hallway, and a plastic bag rustling like someone was interested in the things we had in bags. My son was scared to go upstairs by himself, but I never knew why, because I never reacted to the hauntings around the children, as never wanted to scare them. Then one day, when I'd moved in with my husband, my son said, in true Sixth Sense style, that he was ready to tell me why he hated going upstairs. He told me that when he was playing in his room, he noticed his suitcase that was in the corner started to unzip itself. Yeah, if you've never outwardly reacted to anything going on in your house, that's a pretty clear alarm bell that something must have happened to them too. And yeah, seeing a suitcase unzip itself, that is straight out of the James Wan playbook. You know you're about to get a jump scare. He doesn't remember this now and refuses to acknowledge it, which is super weird. My second story is that every night my kids had a certain routine. My son, as above, had this specific routine where he would come say goodnight for bed and then he would close his door. He would switch the light out and say, "Goodnight, I love you." The door makes a dragging sound on the floor, as I think it's too big for the carpet. Anyway, one night I was on my bed waiting for him to finish getting ready for bed in the bathroom so I could go downstairs. I heard him go to his room and say, "Goodnight, I love you," while switching the light off and shutting his door. Now, because he hadn't come to give me a kiss and a hug goodnight, I got off the bed and shouted, "Hang on there, you haven't given me a hug." As I went to his room, the door was open and no one was in there. He was still getting ready in the bathroom. Oh, when you know what you heard as well. Those are just the weirdest encounters. And then you're just left there like, I know what I heard. So what on earth was that? My husband seems to think that I was dreaming it, but I was fully awake, so it does not make sense. I can tell when I'm dreaming. But back to my first story, I went on a bit of a ghost walk that was put on by the local mayor in my town near Christmas. We walked by my old house, and he talked about how monks used to walk on the path that was right outside my house. During my stay in said house, I also had a medium come in, not to get rid of anything, but just to tell me what was going on. The medium said that there is a woman in the bath who would reenact an accident that she had while living there, hence the bang. Apparently she didn't die of it, it was just an injury. She asked me if I wanted her to go away, and I said, not go away, just don't scare me as much. And I think that that's a reasonable compromise, really. But the bang went away straight away, and I never heard it again. It made me sad, but relieved that I wasn't imagining it. The footsteps on the landing were also apparently a little boy who liked our energy. As for my current house and the energy I have here, the house was built on Catholic grounds where the monks would walk. My street is called the Rosary, which makes sense as there's much more activity. But I like it, so I won't get the medium in again. Fran had another very unsettling story about what happened to her in hospital, which I'm hoping to share very soon. What an interesting story. You hear all the time, obviously, of people who pass away and then they come back and haunt the place. But it's a lot rarer to hear of weird things happening where there wasn't a death, just something happened. I mean, falling in the bath though, that was probably very traumatic. It can be very painful too, depending on how you fall. But then also, why would that woman come back to the house where she didn't die to reenact a moment where she hurt herself? I feel like that would have been more of a residual thing, surely. Although actually moving shower gel bottles and things, that's getting more into poltergeist territory. But this next story from Sherry also had something weird going on in the bathroom. It was 2003 and I was 15 years old. My parents had decided to move down to the south coast of South Africa and had purchased a restaurant. It was located in a very old building that consisted of numerous shops and conveniently had a 3-bedroom flat at the top, which we moved into. I need to clarify though that you could not access that flat from anywhere else in the building. It had its own entrance outside. We moved there right before December, which of course is one of the busiest times in the hospitality industry. Having done my time in hospitality, I completely empathise. My parents jumped right into the running of the restaurant, which meant long hours and me staying on my own a lot. I don't mind, as I've always been a fairly solitary person, and if there was a crisis, I could always run down and around to the restaurant. The flat was cosy, with a small entrance hall that led directly into the living room. The kitchen to the left of the hall extended into a dining room with glass doors out onto a small terrace. Off to the right of the living room was a hallway leading to 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and the bathroom door was visible from the living room. Down on the other side of this hallway, it had the master bedroom and bathroom, and then basically joined back into the kitchen and dining room. My bedroom was the bigger of the 2 bedrooms on the right side, and of course I used the bathroom off the living room. At first, everything seemed fine. I enjoyed living at the coast, and the beach was just a few minutes walk away. But one night, as I was in the shower, the bathroom light suddenly went out. I naturally just assumed the light bulb had blown, but as I switched off the shower, the light came back on. I, having not washed my hair yet, decided to get back in the shower, but as soon as I turned on the taps, the light went off again. Not gonna lie, it freaked me out a bit. I got out of the bathroom very quickly. I told my mum about it the next morning and she said, oh, it was probably something wrong with the light bulb, and so she changed it, and it seemed to be working fine. That night, however, same thing. Soon as I'm in the shower, the light goes out. Turn off the water, on it goes. Now at this point I was thinking old building, crappy wiring, maybe the water or dampness of the bathroom was somehow interfering with the wiring, because of course that's going to be your natural reaction, isn't it? Obviously water and electric don't mix, so it's gotta be something like that. This continued for about a week until my constant complaining to my parents eventually got them to get an electrician to take a look. He inspected the wiring and assured them that everything was up to code. No issues here. At my mother's insistence, since I was driving her a bit mad, he even installed a new light. All's well, right? Nope. The next night, different light, same show. Now at this point, my mother basically told me to live with it. I don't blame her. They were working 12, sometimes 18-hour days trying to establish and run this new restaurant, and a dodgy bathroom light was the least of her concerns. So that's what I did, and after a few more times, it stopped happening regularly. Brilliant. We love a problem that goes away when you ignore it. At this point though, I had noticed that sometimes things wouldn't be where I left them. Okay, so maybe not then. My school bag that I was sure I had left in the dining room would be in my room, and no, it wasn't my mother. My house keys that I routinely left on the kitchen counter would be hung on a small hook at the front door. Just small little things that bugged me. The television channels would frequently change or shut off completely, and for me, most annoyingly, one of my bedroom windows was always open. Now I have nothing against fresh air, but I would never leave my windows open, especially at night, because I'm super afraid of bats, and one did in fact fly into my room one night, resulting in a completely hysterical me. I mean, I'm out here stressing about house spiders that get in at night, and you've got bats that can get in? Sometimes I would swear I saw something pass in the hallway. Just a movement out the corner of my eye, but regularly enough that, again, it started to bother me. At this time, I started dating a really nice guy who lived nearby. We'd go to the beach or over to his parents' house where I often had dinner. One night after he dropped me at home, I went into the kitchen to make myself a cup of tea. I opened the fridge and got a sudden feeling that I wasn't alone in the room. I glanced to the left and saw my reflection in the glass doors of the dining room terrace. And there, directly behind me, stood a woman. I froze, staring at the reflection. I'm not very tall, 5 feet 2 inches, and she was about my height, with curly grey hair. She looked about 50 and was just standing there, frowning at me. I swung around and she was gone. I was so freaked out that I stayed up with all the lights on, waiting for my parents to get home. Yes, absolutely don't blame you for that one. In fact, I would probably even think about going down to the restaurant. Like, Mom, Dad, do you need a extra pot washer tonight? Bit of waitressing? No charge. Just don't fancy being home alone tonight? When they got home, I told my mum about what I'd seen. She stared at me. You've seen her too? She asked. Oh, what a twist! Mum's seen her as well. It turns out that my mum had seen a glimpse of her in the kitchen down in the restaurant more than once. I was quite freaked out, but my mother, being a very practical sort, pointed out that if this lady, whoever she is, wanted to harm us, surely it would have happened by now. Basically, did you die? See, no harm, no foul. This didn't do much to assure me, but what could I do? Yeah, I suppose Mom's got a point. Life went on, and for a while, things were completely quiet. So much so that I tried to convince myself that I'd imagined it all. Then one night, my boyfriend had come over to watch a movie, and to be honest, with my parents still at work, to make out. We were on the couch in the living room when the bathroom light suddenly went on. We paused, looked at it, and it went off. I said something about dodgy lighting, and we resumed our activities when suddenly the bathroom light started flickering wildly. My boyfriend jumped up. Look at the switch, he stammered. The light switch on the outside wall of the bathroom was physically flicking up and down. That boy hightailed it out of there like his pants were on fire. I, however, was pissed and started yelling at whatever or whoever it was to stop screwing around with me. And it did. Possibly sounds like maybe the old woman didn't quite approve of the way you were watching that movie. We lived there for more than 2 years, sort of peacefully with our ghost. She seemed to take a liking to my mother. Once when a customer was particularly rude to her, his glass shattered on the table, spilling beer all over him. Another time when she and my dad were arguing, the solid chair that he was sitting on was yanked right out from under him. He landed on his ass, got up, and sat down, only for it to happen again. I saw her from time to time out of the corner of my eye, and the TV channels would still change and lights would still go off, but if I asked her to please stop, it would. It was almost like she just wanted a bit of attention. I never learned who she was or why she was there, but at Easter time, for some reason, the house would feel inexplicably sad. My boyfriend never came back to our house again though, which was a shame. He was a really good kisser. You know that poor boy never told anyone the real reason why he left that house. You can't be saying that you were scared out of a house where your girlfriend is home alone because of a ghost. Bless him. It does sound like this woman was a very proper sort though. Probably very no nonsense, not putting up with you mucking around with your fella, turning the light off when she thinks that you've been in the shower long enough, or changing the TV channels when you've had enough television, and even appearing when you come back home in a "where have you been" kind of way. But maybe that's why she took such a shine to your mum as well, being very much a practical sort of person. I love that she had your mum's back during arguments though. That is very fun. It would be interesting to hear whether your dad ever had any encounters too, whether he ever experienced this woman. But for now, we're heading over to the USA for a story from Chris, and the ending to this story, I cannot get it out of my head. My now husband John and I moved in together in 1992 to a 1950s/60s apartment on Manning Avenue in West LA. The building was 3 stories with stairs on either side, U-shaped with a pool in the middle of the courtyard, and our apartment was on the 2nd floor. We shared the apartment with our friend Eric, and it had a huge living room as you walked in and a kitchen. To the right, a long hallway led to the bedrooms and the bathroom at the end. Our room was on the right, and our bathroom was the one at the end of the hall. Eric's room was across from us and was the master with an ensuite. Eric never saw or had problems with ghosts, but my husband and I did. The first indication that the place was haunted was that every single time we walked past the pool to get to the stairs, our eyes were drawn to the deep end. and we felt like we would see a dead body floating there. When we had friends over, they all mentioned the same feeling, like they had to look at the deep end of the pool. Never did see anything, but the feeling was inescapable that there was someone dead floating there. I would absolutely be straight in those newspaper archives looking for anything that happened. You can't have every single person visiting feeling something weird and then not be something going on, surely. The second indication that there was something going on was that every single time one of us had to get up to go to use the restroom, when we opened our bedroom door, it felt like someone tall, maybe around 6 feet or so, male, was standing right at our door, looking at us. And I mean palpable, like you could feel him just staring. Not evil, just unnerving. And when we did go into the bathroom, it always felt like someone was standing right behind us at the sink. Neither of us liked looking in the mirror because we were always afraid of seeing someone behind us. I always said out loud when I went in, "Hey man, listen, I don't like being scared, so I really don't want to see you in the mirror." Neither of us ever actually saw anyone in the mirror, but the feeling was definitely there. It just goes to show how strong these feelings can be when you don't even want to look up into the mirror because you know that something's going to be there and you just don't want to see it. Big fan of talking out loud though as well. Just set those boundaries. One night, John and I were sleeping and I rolled over to put my arm around him. He sat straight up in bed, grabbed my hand and squeezed it until I cried out. The look on his face was murderous and his eyes were black. When I screamed, he suddenly went limp and fell back to sleep. But I was angry. More than justified to be angry, I would say. The next morning, he had absolutely no recollection of having hurt me, and let me be clear, John has never before nor since ever done something like that, because if he had, I would have kicked him to the curb. When I told him what had happened, he was mortified. I taught him how to ground and protect himself while he sleeps, and that never happened again. I also saged the living crap out of our room. A few months later, I got up to go into the kitchen to get some water, but this time I didn't sense the presence standing there, which was weird. As I walked down the hallway, I had the absolutely horrible sensation of walking through a warm, wet blanket, and about 2 seconds later, I heard my now husband screaming in the bedroom. I ran back to the room to see him sitting up in bed, pointing at my vanity mirror, saying, "There's a face in the mirror. An old man. It's glowing. There was a face in the mirror." I immediately grabbed his grandmother's crucifix and hung it over the mirror and basically prayed to St. Michael to banish whatever that was. Both of us felt that that spirit was the one who tried to hurt me through John a few months ago, and that was different to the spirit standing at the door. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take invisible imposing presence standing in the bathroom over the thing that tries to maim me every time, no question. Things quieted down after that for a while. The old man never showed up again. The feeling of someone standing at the door and in the bathroom was still there, but again, it didn't feel evil, just unnerving. One night we threw a party and my friends and I, who were taking belly dance lessons, entertained the guests with dances. Tons of food, lots of laughter and fun, and everyone had a great time. And yes, they all commented on the deep end of the pool. 2 days later, I came home from work to find John standing outside our door with a locksmith. He said, "Hun, someone tried to break into our apartment by breaking off our door handle." Ugh, that is just not the news you want to come home to after work. I mean, after coming home from anything really, you just don't want that news, I suppose. Before I could ask though, he said, "No, they didn't get in and nothing is missing. It looks like they got scared off." He then said they must have been amateurs because the picture window was unlocked and open. I looked at the window and it was unlocked and open about an inch. Holy cow, we got lucky. I wonder who scared them off. John shrugged and suggested that once the locksmith was done, we should go to dinner to celebrate not being robbed. I mean, yeah, if there ever was a reason to go out and celebrate, it's gonna be this. Birthdays, anniversaries, the fact that you still have all of your possessions. So the locksmith finished installing the new handle and lock, and we asked Eric if he wanted to come with us. He declined. John went down the stairs ahead of me while I freshened up. And here's where it gets trippy. I would say walking through the feeling of a wet blanket is trippy, and you're going to tell me that it gets trippier. I walked down the stairs, past the first landing to the bottom of the stairs. I heard footsteps and assumed Eric had changed his mind. I looked up and saw a man, about 6 feet tall, with jeans, a vest, a headband and boots, coming down the stairs. I knew it wasn't Eric, and it wasn't the neighbour who lived above us. My mind thought at first that it was some homeless guy dressed like a stereotypical hippie. He proceeded to jump over the banister and land on the landing above me, maybe 6 feet away, and landed with body language that said, "Ta-da!" It was me. He had no face. Where his face should have been was just white light. Even though I couldn't see his face, I had the distinct feeling that he was smiling. Just no words. No words. As I stood there, staring at him, he literally faded away. I walked out of the stairwell over to John and told him that our ghost was the one who had scared off the robber and told him what had just happened. We stayed in that apartment for another 6 months. Still felt our ghost standing at our doorway, but I was no longer unnerved. We survived the Northridge earthquake, and then John got accepted into Portland State University for his master's degree. I really hated leaving that apartment because I knew that our ghost was our protector. We live in Arizona now and go to LA often. We stopped by the apartment recently. It is still there, but it's now condos and gated, so we couldn't get into the courtyard. We felt sad because we just wanted to visit our old friend. Not all ghosts are scary. Some just want to protect you. Can we have a standing ovation? That is how you haunt a place. I freaking love that. And to never appear, never manifest until you show the living exactly what happened and that it was you that protected the apartment. Yeah, no wonder you stop feeling unnerved after that. He's just a guy. He's just another roommate, if you will. Pays his part of the rent through security services. But for now, we're coming back to the UK for this next story from Kylie. And it concerns not one, but 2 houses that may be haunted. In 1993, I moved into a friend's spare room as my family home became overcrowded. I was 20 years old at the time. Apparently, my friend's younger sister had tried sleeping in the room but was afraid and refused to stay in there. It was a 3-story house in Brentford, West London. Once settled in, I needed to put up some shelves to store my belongings. LPs, CDs, books, etc. There was an alcove in the room which I decked out accordingly. That night, it started. My bed constantly shook. I couldn't explain it. I had a friend visit and I asked him to sit on the bed and tell me whether it was shaking. I was going through a bad time in life and thought maybe it was my imagination or just anxiety. He said that it was shaking and asked me why. I couldn't explain it. It was an old house near a railway line, but there was only one train every 30 minutes at most, and apart from a cargo train at about 3 a.m, there were none at night. Yeah, at that point, you're just hoping that your friend's gonna go, what? It's not shaking at all. What are you on about? And then you can just put it down to weird body sensations and move on. My sister even visited on one occasion when she was pregnant. She said the baby started kicking furiously when she sat on my bed. One evening, as I was walking out of my room, I saw a dark shadow of a hunched over, hook-nosed, short figure float across the bathroom and across the hallway. My mum, who was sensitive to spirits, said that I saw a high witch. One Sunday morning, I was awoken by my hair being pulled and the deepest, scariest growl that I have ever heard in my life. A few seconds later, I woke up in exactly the same position, in the exact same lighting. And due to that, I don't think it was a dream. Ugh, yeah, don't love that. Nope, sorry. I also always felt a sense of impending doom on the stairs where they turn near the top, just outside my bedroom. I came out of my room one night to find my friend's 12-year-old sister sitting outside of my room. I asked her why she was there, and she said that she was frightened and only felt safe knowing that I was nearby. We were the only 2 in the house at the time. After speaking to my friends in the house, they informed me that when they moved in and decorated the room that I was sleeping in, they found a pentacle had been painted on the wall which they covered up. Also, some friends had dabbled with a Ouija board in there just before I moved in. Great information to learn after I've moved into this room and weird things have started happening. Thanks, guys. They had also seen a ghostly apparition of a Victorian man walk through one of the rooms in the basement. For the last few years, I've been living at my sister's house, which also appears to have spirits visit. I woke up around 6 a.m. in January, about 5 years ago, to see my bedroom door open and the figure of a teenage girl floated in. She then raised a hand to pick up something above my head. When I moved upward to double check what I was seeing, she gave me an unimpressed look as if I wasn't supposed to be able to see her. She appeared to have a half-melted face, and she then appeared to float backwards out of the room and the door shut after her. I mean, Good of her to close the door, I suppose. I also used to occasionally get items launched at me during the night for no apparent reason. Generally, it was an Xbox controller that belonged to my nephew, as the console was stored in my room. My nephew claimed that he used to sleep in the room before I was living there, and he would see a young girl sitting in his gaming chair staring at him, and she didn't seem to like him. If it's the teenage girl, just don't take it personally, it's a teenage thing. We also had an oven in the kitchen, which the spirit of the girl seemed to be attached to. Indicator lights used to randomly switch on, which was strange. However, I used to say out loud, "Can you switch the light off please, girlie?" A few seconds later, the light would always go out. This went on for about a year or so. When we eventually purchased a new oven, we saw that the back of the old one appeared to be burning out. We concluded that this girl, who my nieces and nephews claimed to have seen, called herself Princess, and she was attached to the faulty oven and was the spirit of a girl who had died in a house fire and was trying to warn us. We also believe that she chose me and attached herself to me as sensitive to warn us. My great-nephews used to talk about a girl on the landing that wouldn't come downstairs to play. No one in the house has seen her since we disposed of the old oven. Now that is interesting, to never see the ghost again after the dangerous oven has been replaced. It's almost as if she was watching over you, she made sure that you were safe, and now that you have got this new oven that's not going to burn out, hopefully, she's done her job, she can move on. I'm loving these stories of protective ghosts today. We had a friend from America visit who was also sensitive to spirits. She did a walkthrough of the house and picked up on several spots where there appeared to be activity. She picked up on a partially closed portal on the top floor. My brother also did a walkthrough. He and his now deceased wife are Wiccans. He invoked some good spirits, basically blessed the house, which appears to have made it more peaceful. I also recall about 2 years ago, as I was walking into my bedroom, I saw the outline of a black figure standing there, which faded quickly. When I researched online, it appeared to be an alchemist, which is supposed to represent a new beginning. However, shortly afterwards, my family went through a period of extreme negativity, including my sister-in-law passing away on the same day that my dad found out he has a form of blood cancer. I believe that alchemist was actually evil. Most of all, what an absolutely horrendous day for your family to go through though. I'm so sorry. I've since put a cleansing kit in the room, and I've also installed a night vision security camera to try and capture anything. It has picked up on what could be orbs on occasion, but nothing conclusive. At my sister's just over a year ago though, I got up in the middle of the night to use the loo. I walked into the landing and looked in the mirror. I saw what looked like a young girl peer up from the other side of the landing, where a chair containing some plush toys were. When I turned around, I couldn't see the girl. She was only in the mirror. A few days later, my great niece and nephews described seeing the same girl on the landing, having no knowledge of what I had seen. The young girl had the same hairstyle as my mum did in the 1980s. My sister worked out that a teddy which belonged to my late mother was on the chair. She had given the bear to one of my nieces. That ghost has not been seen since. Maybe it was my mom checking in on me? Either way, it's all good now. Kylie has experienced a lot of strangeness over her life, and she did share quite a few encounters with me, but this one really stuck out to me. We visited Clachweth Slate Caverns in North Wales. Whilst in there, something pulled on my ponytail in a playful way. I think it was the spirit of a little boy. And in case you don't know, these slate caverns are now operated by Zip World, so you can do a little adventure course inside the caverns. It looks very cool. But this one stuck out to me because I briefly covered this place when I wrote an article for Haunted magazine. Because way before all of the brightly coloured lights and the trampoline-y bouncy net things that you can play around in, the construction workers who were converting the place commonly felt like they weren't alone. Some claimed to hear the sounds of pickaxes hitting the walls, even though they knew that there was no one working in that area. But then on some occasions, shadowy figures wearing old mining gear would be seen walking through the tunnels, obviously looking like they absolutely would not pass a modern health and safety check, so they were clearly out of place. So I just found it interesting to hear about someone else's experiences in a place that I have very briefly covered. But as for Kylie's experiences, it really did seem like someone was looking out for them. And similarly to Chris as well, maybe it would be worth looking into the newspaper archives, seeing if there were any incidents, were any house fires or anything like that, that might explain where this teenage girl has come from, and maybe why she was so adamant about keeping an eye on the oven. But a huge thank you to Fran, Cherie, Chris and Kylie for sending in your stories. I absolutely love reading each and every single one of them. And then of course, course sharing them with you all. So let me know your thoughts on the ghosts being protective of the house that they're haunting. And if you have a story that you would like to share, something weird that's happened to you, a haunted house that you're living in, or a strange encounter that you just couldn't explain, please do email me at hello@don'tscareclaire.com or use the Google form pinned in the comment below. I cannot wait to hear all about it. But anyway, if you enjoyed this collection of stories as told to me by the real people who experienced them, please do give the video a like and make sure you're subscribed too. I talk about the history behind the mystery as well as first-hand witness accounts every week. But anyway, that is all from me today. Go get a drink of water, stay hydrated. I cannot wait to chat with you more about the morbid, mysterious and macabre. So until next time, sleep safe. I'm just noticing these candles in the reflection of the mirror that I've got set up here. I messed up and ordered the wrong candles anyway, but these ones are supposed to burn for 5 hours. 5 hours my ass. I've been recording for like an hour and they're already nearly gone. Amazon's finest.